I feel really nervous. I don't want to go in there alone. What if I get anxious or faint and no one helps? Everyone just stares. That would be so embarrassing. You know what? It's just not worth it. I think I'm gonna head home.
In ancient Greece, agora meant marketplace. Agoraphobia is defined by the DSM-5 as the fear of any situation or place where escape seems difficult or embarrassing, or where help might be unavailable if anxiety symptoms should occur. According to Statistics Canada, agoraphobia affects 1 to 2% of the population. That accounts for roughly 350 to 700,000 Canadians. Agoraphobia falls within the family of anxiety disorders. Anxiety is defined as a state of excessive uneasiness regarding an imminent event. It is rooted in biology and is a normal and adaptive response to perceived stress or danger, which evolved to protect us. It is a mechanism by which the body rapidly mobilizes large amounts of energy in order to cope with threats to survival. This process is commonly referred to as the fight or flight response. Today, anxiety is composed of two components. The first is the ancient evolutionary response, fight or flight. Here's how it works. The amygdala, the brain's fear sensor, alerts the hypothalamus that something is wrong. The hypothalamus then signals the adrenal glands to pump epinephrine into the blood. When this happens, we become focused, our reflexes improve, and our senses sharpen. In order to keep us in this heightened state, the hypothalamus then signals the pituitary gland, and in turn the adrenal gland, to distribute cortisol. Cortisol is a stress hormone that pushes glucose out of the tissues and cortisol into the bloodstream, giving the body an extra boost of energy. Throughout this chain reaction, the heart pumps faster to increase the flow of blood to the muscles. Breathing is accelerated to take in more oxygen. Muscles tighten and fists clench. To conserve energy, the digestive and immune systems slow down. In order to keep cool, the body begins to sweat. As the fight or flight title suggests, this served our ancestors well, as in this charged up state, they could either fight to protect themselves or run away. Even though modern stressors aren't usually life-threatening, the fight or flight response still exists within us today.
As a result, this physiological domino effect is exaggerated, causing an affected person to fret even when there isn't anything to fear.
It is important to distinguish between normal and abnormal fears. It is reasonable to be afraid when someone is following you home late at night, or when a masked man is coming at you with a gun. However, phobias or abnormal fears evoke a pronounced response in the sufferer, so much so that it makes it difficult for them to live out their life normally. This brings us to the second component of anxiety, worry. Worry takes place in the more evolved area in the front of the brain known as the cortex. As we become a more evolved species, human beings develop the cortex, and it is within this system that we think, and therefore worry.
This is the case with agoraphobia, wherein this worry mechanism goes awry. Those who suffer from agoraphobia worry themselves into a fight or flight state when there is no immediate danger. The perceived threat is disproportionate to the actual threat.
Agoraphobia is often misunderstood. There are generalizations and falsehoods about agoraphobia, such as fear of crowds, wide open spaces, or being closed in. In my experience with clients, agoraphobia may involve all of these things, but at the core of agoraphobia is fear. Fear of feeling trapped, fear of helplessness, or fear of being embarrassed. This often leads to avoidance of the events or places that are feared. Perhaps it means avoiding taking the train or going to the grocery store or a crowded mall. These fight or flight responses to fear can interrupt a person's participation in life, leading them to become anxious or to seek safety, like, for example, remaining or returning home. In extreme cases, agoraphobia can seriously impair the quality of life for the sufferer. Meet my client, Luca.
In the beginning, I could manage the stress. I was able to go where I needed to go, even though it was hard sometimes. I would get a lot of anxiety as I got ready to leave the house and when I had to walk to the school alone. It got to the point where I needed to be around my best friend all the time. I would ask her to come with me when I needed to use the washroom. On days when she couldn't make it to school, I would fake sick. Eventually, school just became too overwhelming. Even taking the city bus was too much. I began to worry that if I felt anxious on the bus or fainted, there would be no one to help me. I was worried that people would stare at me. It would be so embarrassing if I lost control in public and couldn't manage my anxiety. Eventually, it got so bad that I pretended to be sick for a whole month just so I could stay home. I didn't leave the house once. That's when my mom told me I needed to go seek counseling.
It was only recently that agoraphobia was made an independent diagnostic category in the DSM-5. That is, a separate category from panic disorder. My client Luca has occasional panic attacks when confronted with stressors, but not all clients with agoraphobia do. To be diagnosed as having agoraphobia, one must have fear of, anxiety over, or avoidance of two of the following situations regularly for a period of longer than 6 months. 1. Using public transportation such as automobiles, buses, trains, ships, and planes. 2. Being in open spaces such as parking lots, marketplaces, and bridges. 3. Being in enclosed spaces like shops, theaters, or cinemas. 4. Standing in line or being in a crowd. Or 5. Being outside of the home alone. Luca fears and has expressed anxiety in 4 of the 5 situations mentioned for a period of over 4 years, and so has been diagnosed with agoraphobia. No other mental disorder can account for her symptoms better. Like all of my clients who have agoraphobia, Luca avoids certain situations for fear that she will not have the help she needs should a panic attack occur. Aside from interrupting her studies, Luca has talked to me about the difficulty that agoraphobia has caused in terms of her social life and her dependency on others. Often, her mother must go with her to the grocery store if Luca is able to go at all. She also expressed a strong desire to go on dates, but her anxiety restricts such activities. In counseling, Luca has expressed that she knows her fears are often out of proportion with reality. However, her ability to control her anxiety, and on occasion her panic attacks, is often out of reach despite this understanding. I'm working with Luca, often making home visits to manage her symptoms so that she can live a more fulfilled life.
Therapy has helped me a lot. My counselor suggested that I try meditation and different breathing exercises, which I find really helpful. I use those when I'm thinking about leaving the house or walking onto my balcony. Every time I notice that I'm having trouble breathing or I can feel my heart beating really fast in my chest, I just start to focus on my breathing and on my breath. When I talk about my fears out loud, I notice that a lot of them just don't make any sense. So I'm really determined to get better.
It is important to recognize the symptoms of anxiety that may be experienced by a person with agoraphobia. Symptoms occur on a spectrum ranging from slight anxiety to extreme anxiety or a major panic attack, which may conjure extreme terror, fear of going crazy, fear of dying, and a strong compulsion to escape. When clients learn to recognize early warning symptoms, such as shortness of breath or increased heart rate, by putting treatment strategies in place, they can stave off symptoms before they become full-blown. To treat agoraphobia, we must address physical, behavioral, emotional, cognitive, and existential and spiritual dimensions.
There are many ways to address the physical symptoms of agoraphobia. Breathing exercises are the key to regulating the body's sensation in the moment. 5 full minutes of abdominal breathing will have a pronounced effect in reducing anxiety. Inhale slowly and deeply through your nose, deep into the bottom of your lungs, into your diaphragm and belly. The next step is to pause and exhale slowly and smoothly. Repeat. Progressive muscle relaxation is another technique to help with anxiety. If you are plagued by racing thoughts, you may find that relaxing your muscles tends to help slow down your mind. Starting with your toes, Systematically go through your body, tensing and releasing muscles. This regular practice of progressive muscle relaxation will help bring awareness as to where your body is holding tension and help to better manage your anxiety. Also, regular aerobic exercise goes a long way to reduce symptoms of anxiety. Regular exercise can release pent-up frustration, reduce skeletal muscle tension, and promote more rapid metabolism of excess adrenaline and thyroxine. Choose activities that you enjoy that will raise your heart rate. Proper nutrition is also key to reducing anxiety symptoms. Certain foods will aggravate, such as caffeine, nicotine, salt, sugar, preservatives, and hormones in red meat.
There are also ways to manage behavior to help treat agoraphobia.
The most effective way to overcome a fear is to face it. A good way to do this is to break it down into manageable steps. This may mean sitting on the front porch with a friend for a few minutes while practicing deep breathing. Next might be a walk around the block, and so on. Exposure to fear is considered to be the most effective treatment to agoraphobia. It is the process of unlearning the connection made between the activity and the anxiety. Feelings incite a bodily reaction. Feelings are influenced by thoughts and perceptions. In some cases, anxiety may be a sign that repressed feelings are trying to emerge. Once you allow the feelings to emerge and you come to accept the feelings, then the anxiety around them diminish. Psychotherapy will help to process feelings that may be bottled up. There are ways to counter the negative self-talk that contributes to panic by challenging underlying mistaken beliefs. Sometimes they are so basic to our way of thinking that we may not recognize them. These core beliefs may come from childhood conditioning. Key to challenging the beliefs is to first become aware of them, then to challenge them, and then to let them go. Examples of a basic belief could be, I am helpless, or I am powerless. Following this process, you replace your mistaken beliefs with statements such as, I am powerful and able, or I trust I have the capacity to overcome this agoraphobia. Addressing what is meaningful to an individual in therapy becomes the spark and the reward for doing the physical, emotional, and cognitive work that is necessary to cross over from avoiding those feared things to living with full potential and deeper purpose.
For extreme cases, medication might be an option. Speak to your healthcare practitioner.
Since starting therapy, my life has improved dramatically. I still have trouble going places by myself, but I'm able to go to school again if my mom drives me, and I'm able to go over to friends' houses. Every morning, I wake up and do half an hour of yoga, which I find really helps me manage my anxiety for the rest of the day. The fear is still there, but I feel better knowing there are things that I can do when I'm outside of the house to calm me down if I begin to feel anxious. I'm determined to finish my undergrad in English because I want to write a book about my experience and share it with other people who may be going through the same thing as me.
If you have symptoms of agoraphobia or know someone who does, treatment can help. Contact your local health provider or counseling center.